Welcome to Based on a Book, the podcast for all things heroic, magical, and sometimes a little bit messy. I'm Keri, your friendly neighborhood demigod and companion for this week's quest.
I'm Lindsey, daughter of chaos and questionable book choices.
And I'm Crystal, 100% pure-blooded coward.
And I say messy because this is our second time trying to record this. On our last stop for April adventures, we are dipping our toes into the complicated waters of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, because nothing says adventures like diving into The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan and its TV show movie adaptations. Since we have so much content to cover, this episode we've brought to you in 3 different parts, where we will be covering the first season of the 2023 TV show, parts 1 and 2, and the 2010 movie and overall insights in parts 3. So whether you're a longtime fan or a newbie, we hope you join the journey as we witness Percy's first encounter with Greek gods and how this series is brought to life on screen. And if you haven't heard of this series before, this world is large and full of plenty of spin-offs, but the core book series that the show and movie revolve around is Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, which contains 5 main books. The entire series is all about Greek mythology and is in the perspective of a 12-year-old boy named Percy Jackson. The first book is The Lightning Thief, which is what the first season of the show and the first movie follows. This book is basically Percy's introduction to the world, his family history, and his first quest with 2 friends that involve confronting monsters, mythical creatures, gods, prophecies, and more. So we're just going to immediately get into it and get into book ratings. So let's start with, who do I want to start with? I want to start with Crystal, since you've read this already before.
I have.
It's your second time reading it.
It is. I read it the first time, probably only like a year after it originally came out. I read it with.
Really?
Yeah. So like,
oh my god, that's so cool.
I was in it from the get-go. But I hadn't read it since then.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I remember reading and what I just read are a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had just forgotten a huge chunk of this book that I thought I remembered. But because this is a lot of like mythology retelling, and because there are an epic crap ton of mythology retellings out there, in my head, I must have gotten confused about what was in what. And so it was really fun to reread this and not find the parts that I thought I really loved, because turns out that wasn't this book. And also to find parts that I had forgotten were in this one. So it was really enjoyable, and I give it 4 lightning bolts.
Okay. And you listened to the audio, right?
I listened to the audio. I did not enjoy the audio. The narrator, this is a kid's book. It's written for kids. It is somewhat, like, I don't want to say simplified, because there's a lot of complex issues happening, but the language is simplified because the target audience is children.
Yeah.
Having said that, the narrator narrated it like he was reading to children, and that was annoying to me.
Yeah.
But I'm an adult. I'm not the target audience. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to sit here and say he did a bad job. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I kind of touched into the audiobook a little bit just to get what the experience would be.
Right.
And I did not love it either. I totally agree with you. It's just, I mean, it's not necessarily for me, but right. I get why they choose a narrator. That's kind of why I kind of struggle with listening to like young adult fantasy books, because they sound so young, which duh, because they are young characters. So it's not my favorite either. So I totally get that. What about you, Lindsey?
This was my first time reading it, which I'm really surprised because I love Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, I gave it 4 drachmas.
You took my rating.
I knew it.
I gave it 4 drachmas as well, so we all gave it the same rating.
Wow.
That's just so rare, and I love it when it happens, especially when we all like it this much.
Yeah. I I'm just like having such, I mean, I keep saying this every single time we do this, but I'm having such a good time reading these middle grade books. This was my very first experience reading Percy Jackson. I've always heard so much about this series. It's like this iconic series that everybody loves and adores. I'm not super into Greek mythology. I mean, it definitely took a little bit of research going into it because I wanted to get all the clues into the story. And when I was doing all the research and reading it as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this book is so smart. This book is crazy smart.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm having like literally the best time. And I feel like I'm also learning so much at the same time. And it's nonstop adventure, nonstop action. Like you just want to keep turning the pages. It's super fun.
And I love how, even though it is targeted towards kids, it really hits on a lot of complex issues.
Oh yeah,
right?
totally.
Inclusion for disabilities, educational disabilities, developmental disabilities, physical disabilities. It hits on, found family. It hits on, non-traditional family structures and abusive and toxic family structures. Like there's so many heavy topics in here, but in a very digestible way.
Yeah. Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not really sure why I didn't give it a 5. I would probably maybe say like, I base my ratings off like vibes and just feelings. So like
Mhm.
there is like something that's like my 5 stars like have like this like super emotional connection I have to the
Right.
book. Maybe as I continue in the series, yeah, I would go back and give this a 5, as I'm like continuously connecting with these characters and falling in love with them. So, who knows?
So I have read the whole series, and as I mentioned, my memory of this is not necessarily reliable. However, I remember that it gets even better.
Mhm.
It grows in a really great way. I really loved that, the way the whole overall theme of the story continues, the whole, with the same kind of like prophecies and found family and discovering themselves while just, like it all kind of continues, and it's really, really good. Yeah, I think I didn't give it a 5 because it didn't quite, I feel like the language is a little dumbed down. I think it probably needs to be for the audience, but also maybe not. Like, I always hate it when somebody underestimates their audience. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I think that's the only reason I probably didn't give it the full 5, is because I felt like there was just a little something more that could have been there and then wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think s because it's middle grade, you
Right?
know,
Exactly.
like yeah, it's like kind of difficult to, kind of get to that 5 star, but then I just like read The Wild Robot and I just
Right.
was like so emotionally connected to like every second of that book. So, you know, I don't know. I'm excited to continue in the series because I definitely want to keep reading in the series. So
Me
Right.
I'm
too.
curious how I'll still feel later. So I'm excited about that. But I really want to get into our book versus TV show breakdown. So let's get into all of the spoilers. So this is your warning. If you haven't yet been this is a threat. This is your warning. If you haven't yet ventured into the world of Percy Jackson and don't want to be spoiled, turn back now because we are about to dive into the heart of this quest. Since this is part 1, we will be talking about the first 4 episodes of the TV show and the book, but there's always a chance that we may slip up and bring up stuff that happens in later episodes because we love to yap. Okay? We love to yap.
Sure do.
So we may spoil other stuff. So this is just a warning. But I kind of want to get into like the TV show background a little bit. Percy Jackson and the Olympians TV show was created by the author and Jonathan Steinberg for Disney Plus. The author is very involved in this project. I recommend watching Making of the Percy Jackson documentary. It's also available on Disney Plus. There are a lot of great insights behind how and why this show was made, including the author stating he only kind of wanted to make wanted to make this adaptation for the fans. Like, this was for the fans. He wanted a faithful adaptation for his fans because the book itself, the story itself, started as like a bedtime story for his son. He turned this into this incredible world that fans want to see on screen. So it was very important to him for this adaptation to be faithful to the story. That was his highest priority. And I honestly think, my personal opinion on this TV show, nailed it. For real, nailed it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually kind of insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I just watched the movie last night. And honestly,
That's different.
yeah, wait till that part 3, everyone, because we are going to be getting into that.
Oh, yeah.
And
can't
he
wait.
had, the author had no control over that movie adaptation. Nothing. No control. So he did not want that to happen for this circumstance, for this TV show, and became an executive producer. They even have their soundtrack with Bear McCreary. And when Bear McCreary's on there,
Mm-hmm.
that show is about to be bomb.com, okay? He's about to
Not
nail.
Bob.com.
He is about to nail that. All right? Outlander, Rings of Power. You're about to be crying your eyes out in that show, okay?
True.
If he's up in there. So be prepared. So when starting The Lightning Thief, we are immediately introduced to our main character, Percy, who's known as a kid who finds himself in a lot of trouble or weird circumstances, from encountering bullies or trying to convince everyone he's seen a Pegasus on the roof of their school building. He talks about struggling with school, being dyslexic, and having a difficult time paying attention. He's been pushed around different schools and is now at Yancey Academy, where episode 1 begins. It is called I Accidentally Vaporized My Pre-Algebra Teacher, which is the title of the first chapter of the book. And they are on a school field trip at a museum looking at statues of Greek gods, where we are also introduced to his close friend Grover and teachers Mr. Bruner and Mrs. Dodds. And as they are learning about these Greek gods and being asked questions during this field trip, Mr. Bruner's paying extra attention to Percy and being like, you need to know this stuff for your future. And Percy's like, okay, what? It's like classic trope of like, everyone knows something that I don't, as the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone is aware of something going on. I don't know what's going on. And this is like an urban fantasy where things are not as it seems, and humans don't know what's actually going on around them. That is the vibe.
This book and even the movie and this series in particular do such a great job. I love like urban stories like this that specifically have specific places in it, especially like ones where they travel across the country, because like if you've ever been to these museums, you know exactly what they're looking at. You've seen it before and you feel a little bit closer to the story.
Yes.
And any of the places they stop, it's kind of the same thing. If you've ever been there before, or if you've heard of it before, like it feels a little bit more real. It's a little bit easier to immerse yourself in it then. And so I love this. So them being at the museum and looking at like the statues and the busts and the artwork that is actually there was really kind of cool.
Yeah, it makes it, like you said, like makes it more fun. Like
Exactly.
It makes it, and I'm imagining reading this as like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep. And if you've ever been, to any of the places that are mentioned, and there's a lot of places mentioned, or if you have family there or whatever, that like you can kind of feel a little bit more. I don't know. It's immersive. That's and it's really awesome.
Yeah. Percy is dealing with a bully at the academy, and she makes her appearance at the field trip, and Percy gets fed up after she picks on Grover, and Percy attacks the girl. And the way Percy attacks the girl reveals that he is not human. She's pushed, and he doesn't even touch her. And Mrs. Dodds sees this and reveals her true form, which
I just want to say Mrs. Dodds.
Megan Mullally.
Megan Mullally is the best.
Yep.
She is married to Nick Offerman.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both in the Umbrella Academy, and
Yup.
they are so good. I love them.
Mhm.
Anytime they appear together, you know it's going to be amazing. And Nick Offerman isn't in this. I'm hoping he shows up in season 2. Fingers crossed.
That would be so
So,
good.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, she plays Electa, which is a Fury disguised as a human, and Furies are from the underworld who serve Hades. And like we said, this is our first encounter with you know, a character from Greek mythology in the TV show. And when you see like in fantasy shows, like the first time you're encountering like a fantasy
Mm-hmm.
character, it's like this is going to set the bar of what we're about to see in this show.
Yep.
And seeing this, and I'm always like imagining like I don't know how to describe this, but like when you're taking as an author and you have to take a retelling of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're like incorporating mythology or just a retelling of like a story in history or something like that, and you're creating it and adding it to your new world, but it's like you have to modify it a little bit. Like you don't always make it exact, but you
Right.
modify it to adjust it to your story. And like what they make her look like in the
Mm-hmm.
show was like really cool. I
Yes.
loved how she looked in the show.
And I love the morphing between her like human form and her like monster for her true form.
Yeah.
Like the way they kind of morph those back and forth in some different scenes is really so well done. It doesn't
Mhm.
look campy or cheesy. It looks like a legit Fury straight from, from hell. Like it's really it's really awesome. And yet somehow Megan Mullally still looks really good as a
Yes, she
monster.
does.
Like,
Yes,
Yes,
she
she
does.
does. Yes. And Electo attacks him or attacks Percy, and Percy's like, "What the hell is happening?" But has some natural instincts to protect himself, and he has a pen that was given to him earlier by the other teacher, Mr. Brunner, and he saves his life when the pen turns into a sword for him and makes Electo turn into dust when he stabs her with it. And he kind of like comes back to reality after this whole situation happens, and he's starting to be like gaslit by everyone because they all say that
mhm.
there's no such thing as Mrs. Dodds. So we find out later that this whole situation happens where everyone doesn't know what he's talking about is known as the mist. And this is a force that is pushed amongst humans that allow monsters to be hidden from a mortal sight. It's like everyone is being compelled to believe that they did not just see what just happened. And that's
I'm
how
okay with that. I
yeah,
don't
it's a
want to see it.
yeah. And like as a kid you're like reading that, you're like, "Oh my gosh, like what do I not know?" You know what I
Exactly. It
mean?
could be anywhere.
Yeah, they could be anyone. But Percy is
Yeah.
eventually kicked out of the academy due to the incident pushing the girl. Grades are dropping because he's so distracted by what the heck he just went through. And he ends up back home with his mom and his garbage stepdad, Gabe.
Whose last
And
name is Ugliano.
yeah,
I love Gabe Ugliano.
yeah.
Oh
Like,
no, Ugliano's here.
Oh no, Gliano's here.
oh Lord. Because I did not remember that part. And I just cackled the first time I heard that last name when I was reading it. I was like, oh, I forgot. And it's so perfect. It's so perfect.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. In the book, we get a lot more traveling during this time. We even encounter the Fates whenever Percy is trying to get back to his house to his mom, but we encounter the Fates much later in the TV show.
Can
Percy's
we,
super.
sorry, right off the bat, though, in the book, the one thing that I hate most they changed about Percy in the series
Mm-hmm.
is that Percy's a little shit to his mom in the series. He like, you always leave me at these boarding schools and why don't you want me around? And but in the book he's like, my mom works really hard and I
Mm-hmm.
know that she's struggling to make sure that I have the best that I can get since
Yeah.
I have these learning disabilities. And he's that classic kid of a single mom who feels like he has to in some ways parent the mom too and take care of him, like do like he doesn't get to be a kid in the book and he recognizes it, Whereas in the series, he's just like, she's always leaving me here, and I, like, she's always just trying to get rid of me, and like hates his dad in the book, like doesn't even know who his dad is, and is, he abandoned me, or in the series he abandoned me, but in the book he's like, I have these warm fuzzy feelings about my dad, but my mom says he was lost at sea. You know what I mean? So like there's this right away, he is super, oh, what's the phrase for it, when like he just doesn't like authority at all in the series, but in the book he's really respectful of his mom and the position she's in.
Yeah, he like adores his mom. He worships his mom in the book. And, right off the bat, whenever he gets home, he's like dealing with Gabe and stuff. His mom decides that after dealing with getting kicked out from another school and dealing with his crap stepdad for 2 seconds because he's terrible, she wants to take him away for the weekend. And they are in a house on the water in Long Island when she takes him away because they live in New York City. And in the book, Percy's kind of thrown. This is a little different between the book and the TV show. Percy's kind of thrown in the book into the deep end of things. He has a moment with his mom, and all we know about his dad is, like you said, he's lost at sea. And in the show, his mom starts revealing things about his life. It's very much like, you're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah.
Like, all the stories are true, like from Shadowhunters, where they're like, all the stories are true. And it's like, his mom says, the Greek gods are real. Your father is a god. The monsters are real.
And
This whole big moment. And they're coming for you right now. And you need to go to like this camp or something. And, Percy's like, what the hell? And also kind of revealing, like, you've been told these stories like your whole life. The stories that I've been talking about you, or like telling you your whole life, those are all true. And, in the book, he's not, exposed to any of that. Like his whole life. He has no idea what any of this means. And Grover eventually shows up. Remember Grover, the friend in the beginning, shows up to the house and reveals that he is a satyr and has always been there as Percy's protector. And his mom even knows Grover, like is familiar with Grover. And at this point, I'm like thinking about the casting. I'm like, okay, casting in the TV show, because we just had the mom, who's Virginia Cole, I think. We have Grover, we've got Percy, the two boys. I'm like, okay, the casting, I'm loving the casting. The casting is good, in my opinion.
I
love that they cast kids.
Yes.
For a kid's role.
We'll get into the movie.
Yeah, but I feel like we need to almost point that out. Like, the children in the story are 12 years old. Like, Percy is 12.
Yes.
In the series, Percy looks like he's probably 12.
Yes.
I think he was 12 or 13.
Yeah. Like, it looks very realistic. Which
I love that.
I do too. I really love that. But I think it's important to remember that in the book too. Like, this story is about middle school aged kids.
Yep.
Children.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Except Grover, who apparently is like 28 years old, but looks like a 12-year-old.
Right. Because he's a satyr.
Yeah.
But they do cover that in the book, like that they mature differently. And so like he's basically been in middle school for 7 years or something like that. Yeah. Can you imagine being stuck in like the beginning stages of puberty for like 15 years? I'd die.
It's like Edward Cullen, where he's like goes to high school like 800 times.
Oh my God.
He keeps graduating with his 800 graduation caps.
Pass.
Not me reading Midnight Sun.
Perfect timing. So Percy doesn't know what the heck is going on, and Grover's like, we gotta get out of here. And he just has to go with the flow, and they're attacked by another monster, the Minotaur. And they go on a big car chase with the Minotaur to a location that his mom only touches on for a second, but it is like a farm. Like, from what that's the only thing that they know. But yeah, they touch on for a second, but it's supposed to protect them from the monsters, just protect Percy and Grover. But he finds out that the mom can't cross into this area that's going to protect them. And this whole part had me crying, man. Had me crying in the book, got me crying in the show. I'm crying because you can tell his mom was protecting him from this for a really long time.
Yep.
And and this was like her final last resort to do this. Like, she didn't want to do this. And the Minotaur grabs her, his mom vanishes when she's like in the clutches of him, and Percy like witnesses this. Percy attacks him, rips off the Minotaur's horn, stabs him with it, and Grover gets him to the location, which we find out is Camp Half-Blood. And that's kind of where episode 1 of the show ends. And then we move on to episode 2, called I Become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom, which we will find out what that means. And the material in episode 2, and moving on throughout The Lightning Thief, is Percy's introduction to Camp Half-Blood and what it is to be what he soon finds out is a demigod, which is what he is, and what everyone or most of them at Camp Half-Blood is. And it's revealed that Mr. Brunner, that we saw earlier, is a centaur. I'm looking at you both like, did I say that correctly?
You said it right. Good job.
You did it.
There's so many Greek words
or deny.
Greek words, any of these mythology words, like, they're hard to pronounce. It's okay. Nobody's gonna be mad about it.
Yeah, nobody come for me. It's okay if you come for me. It's okay. And his name is Chiron.
Yep.
Chiron, okay. I'm doing it. He's the teacher of heroes at this Camp Half-Blood. And we are also introduced to Mr. D, the camp director, who is Dionysus. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I forgot to write down the guy who plays him.
Manzukis.
There you go.
Yes. It was Zeus's son.
He is Derek from The Good Place.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so freaking funny.
He is Rexplosion in Invincible.
Yep, he's so freaking funny. He was perfect as Dionysus. It was kind of lovely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we also meet Annabeth, who is the child of Athena. I always, going into the series, I always would hear about Annabeth all the time. And who Annabeth had helped nurse Percy back to health when he was injured in the camp. Percy gets another speech about how Greek gods exist, and then Chiron gives him the tour of the camp, which is really cool seeing going from page to the screen.
Yes.
In the TV show. Each house in this camp represents a Greek god or goddess parent. So basically what this is that whoever's parent you have, because each of the kids in the camp is a demigod and their parents are a god or goddess, including Percy. And whatever house that you're staying in, that's the house that your parent is, and it's themed for that god. I don't know if I explained that in any kind of coherent way. And,
unless you're not claimed.
Yeah. And then, there is like an unclaimed house, which is Hermes.
And I love that they address this in the series as well as the book, because again, we get to sometimes not all parents are good parents, and they don't necessarily want to deal with the responsibility of having a child. And then you become an unclaimed kid and you have to stay in Hermes' cabin because Hermes is like the welcoming spirit. He's the god of travelers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's awesome that they mentioned this in the book. I think it's awesome that they kept it in the series, because there's a crap ton of kids out there who feel like they are unclaimed kids in real life.
Mm-hmm. And
to be represented and still have the opportunity to become a hero, still have the opportunity to do something right, still have the right to be mad that your parent isn't doing the right thing. That is a really awesome thing to just put out there and discuss with kids in a digestible way.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I was like, whenever I got to this point in the book and I was thinking about this like Camp Half-Blood, And I'm thinking about all these kids, and they're describing how their parents are all these gods and goddesses, and they're kind of talking about who, like, which kid is from which parent, things like that. And I was having, if you're a Shadowhunters fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where I was like, I'm going to need a family tree because I'm getting a little nervous. I'm getting a little nervous because if you're a Shadowhunters fan and you look a little too close to that family tree, if you know what I'm talking about, it's looking sometimes a little crossover, a little incesty.
But that's how all mythology is.
I
All of
know.
it.
I
Greek,
know.
Norse, Roman, whatever. It's all like that.
Yeah. I was literally thinking that, and I was thinking about this Percy Jackson series because obviously, I mean, I have not touched on any of the spinoffs, but I'm just thinking of all these spinoffs, and I'm thinking if somebody had a family tree, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't want to look too close to a
Nope.
family tree
They're all first
because
and second cousins because they
I
all have the
know.
same grandparents or great grandparents.
Also, like, we're going to get into it more of them being stuck at, some of them are not allowed to leave
Yep.
this Camp Half-Blood, and I'm sitting here like, as they get older, and I'm like, this feels like a recipe for disaster. And
Sure is.
I'm like, yeah, but I was just having this moment, as like I said, similar to Shadowhunters, where I'm like, I'm just gonna step away from that. I'm gonna pretend like that doesn't exist and move on. Moving on.
Yep.
I really was. I was stuck on it for too long, and I was like really getting into it. And I was like, okay, no.
Nope.
Anyways, because we don't know who Percy's dad is, he has to, like we said, stay in Hermes' house, which is the god of travelers, and meets Hermes' son, Luke, who teaches him a lot about the camp and trains him. He's undetermined, but there is speculation he's part of the big three, which is Poseidon, Hades, or Zeus. And having a child from any of the big three is forbidden. And it is forbidden because the big three had to, I'm going to summarize this really quick, is they had to make like a pact amongst them where they weren't allowed to have any children due to the amount of power that their children could have. So they had to make a pact amongst themselves to not have kids, basically. And there were moments where one of them was having a kid where they weren't supposed to, like I believe her name was Talia, I think. And the story of Talia was Zeus's kid, broke that pact. You're not supposed to have the kid. And she was
She
super
got turned
powerful.
into a tree. It's fine.
Yeah, turned
Like
into a
somehow
tree.
we're supposed to look past the fact that Zeus had a kid because he turned her into a tree.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're not going to worry about it.
And so Annabeth is very aware of Percy because she was told a prophecy that she would get to lead her own quest once, quote, the one arrives, and she thinks that's Percy. And, Percy continues to learn about the world, like Hades' torturers are called kindly ones, and he learns that most demigods, which is what all the kids are called, half god, half mortal, have ADHD because their instincts are not those that align with humans, and they are dyslexic because they naturally have the ability to read ancient Greek.
Yep.
Because rumors are going around that Percy may be part of the big three, and he's carrying around this minotaur horn. He has some enemies, including Clarice, which is the daughter of Ares, god of war. Eventually, Clarice tries to attack him, and he drowns her in toilet water. Hence the title of the episode. And he, the toilet water attacks her. And he's, doesn't do anything about it. And he's like, what the hell just happened? At this point, the book is building up to who the hell is Percy's dad. And thankfully, we get a reveal in this book, because I didn't know if this was going to be a big storyline throughout the entire series. And I was like, can we not do this, please? I need to know.
Right.
But it is revealed after a game of Capture the Flag. And in the book, he is attacked from a hellhound, which is, really bad because there's not supposed to be monsters on the camp unless it is summoned by someone in the camp. So, there's, a traitor in the camp, basically. But in the show, this It's revealed when Clarice attacks Percy, and Annabeth pushes Percy into the water, and it shows that his dad is Poseidon. And this is really bad because it's a violation to the oath that was made between the big three. Cried during the show when this happened. Was anyone else emotional in the show? Is it just me?
Just you.
Lindsay.
Just you.
Really?
I know you're all like Crystal, surely to God. Crystal cried. Nope.
Oh my gosh.
But I think it's because
so
I knew the
emotional
story.
lately. My gosh, I'm such a baby.
I'm not gonna lie, I felt like really invested and really proud to see these kids come to life on screen and portrayed so well.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not cry.
No.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was looking at this camp thinking to myself, if there's 12 Olympian gods and 3 of them are not supposed to be reproducing, and there's like 200 freaking kids in this camp, that means those other 9 stay busy. And that was freaking me out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I keep thinking about that. I'm sorry, I can't help it.
I can't because because these are not like tiny children in the camp. These are not kids. These are middle schoolers to high schoolers. So like I would think the like 10 to 17-ish range. So there's 7 years in there, and some of these cabins had like 30 plus kids in them. You're telling me over 7 years you were able to produce 30 freaking kids, and you do that on the regular? Like, what?
I know.
Come on.
I know.
These Olympian gods is too much. It's too much. They're doing too much.
They're procreating like crazy.
Like they could just they could just populate the earth without humans at all. Like it's just too, seriously, I'm over here like this ain't right.
Yeah. After this reveal, Percy is sent on a quest assigned a quest to locate Zeus's master bolt, because Zeus believes Percy stole it, and they believe Hades has it, and they must get it back to Zeus before the summer solstice in 10 days. Also, Percy has his own intentions to go on this quest, which is to retrieve his mom from the underworld. And then it moves on to episode 3, which is We Visit the Garden Gnome Emporium, in which we will figure out what that means in a minute. Percy visits the Oracle to confirm he can go on this quest and gets his prophecies. His prophecies are: you shall go west and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end. Dun, dun, dun. So then they go to Los Angeles.
Of course.
They must travel to Los Angeles because that's where the underworld is, of course. And all they have is Chiron's magic sword, called Riptide, Luke's flying sneakers, 20 gold drachmas, $100.
Right?
That bothered me the whole season, the whole book. $100 to travel to Los Angeles? What the hell am I going to do with $100? How am I going to get anywhere with $100? And Grover's Reed Pipes, where he's playing So Yesterday by Hilary Duff. On repeat. On repeat. And at this point, it's nonstop traveling and action for the rest of the book and the rest of the TV show, as they're continuously attacked by different monsters or gods. Alecto is back, attacking with the Furies as she senses them on a bus. They have to constantly keep their heads on a swivel, and I love Annabeth. Annabeth, I was like, I don't know how I feel about you at first. I don't know how I feel. But
we weren't supposed to like her, I don't think.
And then I fell in love. I fell in love with Annabeth because I just love her bossing them around, keeping the boys in line, which she does a great job at. She does a great job in the show, in the book. I love it.
She's so Hermione coded.
Yes. She is so Hermione coded.
It's intense. But these books were also written at like the height of the Potter mania that was happening. And so there's a lot that you could kind of fit into that like hero's journey, path. So there's a lot of crossover, I think, but
Yeah.
Also really stands alone and stands out from that too.
Yeah, definitely. They then encounter Medusa, where they eventually behead her. And I kind of want to dive a little bit into this Medusa stuff, okay?
Yes,
Because
please.
this literally makes me a little emotional. I'm not going to lie. If you notice in the book versus the show, there is a completely different feeling
Mhm.
when encountering Medusa.
But I think that's because of when the book was written and when the
Yes.
show was
Yes.
created.
There is more purpose and intention when you encounter Medusa in the show.
Mhm.
Because in Greek mythology, Medusa is a symbol of something much more sinister, where some interpretations say her encounter with Poseidon was non consensual, and that is kind of hinted at in the TV show. The story still continues with her being decapitated as following the demigod story of Percy Jackson's namesake, but it also kind of touches on a quote from Percy's mom where she says, "Not everyone who looks like a hero is a hero, and not everyone who looks like a monster is a monster."
Mhm. I love that they put this
Yes.
in the series. I love that it was, and I love that they touch on that with the Medusa story,
Mhm.
specifically since just general public and society awareness of the Medusa story has shifted so much in the last 20 years that even when I remember being taught the Medusa story way back in high school, in middle school 30 years ago, and it was the closer to the story that we get in the book. And then in the last, I would say like 10 to 15 years, that narrative has started to shift more towards Medusa being the victim in this story. And I love that they portrayed it in this series with both sides of the story, because we see Annabeth saying, "No, my mom punished you because of what you did." And she says, "Or did she give me a gift because of what happened?"
Mhm.
And I really kind of love that they told both sides of that story.
Yeah. I read an article about this on the purpose behind changing this. And Steinberg said in a quote about doing this scene and when she is saying her story and how it talks about the original myth, while, trying to still keep it age appropriate.
Right.
And he said, if you know what she's talking about, you know what she's talking about. If you're too young to be in that conversation, it won't bother you. You're just in a scene about this woman who seems complicated and everyone's got an opinion about what went down. There's no version that is the version. If Athena and Poseidon were in that room, you'd get 3 different versions of the story. And then the author also had a quote like about that scene. And he said, "There are many versions from ancient times of what happened in that temple with Medusa and Poseidon and Athena. Who's to blame? Who's the abuser? Who's the real story? It's fiction, but it certainly is important to acknowledge that there is abuse involved in here, abuse of power." So there is a lot of intention. They show her energy in the costume design, in her voice. It's very just like the beige costume design. Her voice is very soothing. It was just so interesting. It was different. You could
Yep.
tell, immediately the second it started, I could tell there was just intention behind what was happening.
Yep.
And I loved it. I
It
love
was really
that.
well done.
And also with the original mythology, like in how do you pronounce his name? Perseus?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perseus's Perseus's quest in mythology for Medusa, which I thought this was like a interesting thing. When he went on his quest, he was aided by the gods and was given items including winged sandals from Hermes and a helmet of invisibility from Hades, which is funny because Annabeth has this hat that helps her make her invisible whenever they're going on this quest. So I thought that was a little interesting touch.
I wanted to say Hermes' wing sandals were a gift from Hephaestus, and Maya was the name of his mother. So when he says Maya to make the wings flap on the sandals, it was Hermes' mother.
Oh, okay. See, I love all these connections. Like, it's so good. It's so good. But the story still continues, like, as, you know, the lore is, where in the book they immediately, you know, it still continues where Medusa's head is cut off. And in the book, they immediately ship Medusa's head to Olympus. And in the show, I was like, damn. We're getting so emotional about the Medusa. And okay, they ship her head to Olympus. Damn.
I love this.
Yeah.
And Annabeth's like, they're going to think you're impertinent. And he's like, I am.
Yeah. Yeah, he don't care.
Like, oh, good.
Yeah. In the show, they actually use her head to get rid of Alecto because she's stalking them, and they ship Medusa's head to Olympus, where episode 3 ends with Lin-Manuel Miranda going up in an elevator with the box to Olympus. We don't know who I mean, you can't really tell who his character is yet.
Unless you know Greek mythology, and then, yeah.
You can kind of guess.
Immediately. Right. I was like, oh, okay.
And we can all guess it's Hermes. Then it continues still continuing in Lightning Thief, but to episode 4, titled I Plunge to My Death, similar to the title of chapter 13 in the book. Percy, Grover, and Annabeth continue traveling to Los Angeles, still wondering how they have enough money to do this. Where are the funds? How do we still have enough funds? I still don't know. Percy's having weird nightmares about the Master Bolt, and someone is talking to him. It's like scary thing from Courage the Cowardly Dog that's like swaying outside. Return the slab. You know what I'm talking about?
That episode. I still think about that episode.
Tell me that's not the thing that he's literally dreaming of.
Yeah,
that looks exactly like that.
Yep.
I was like, hello? Okay. I was like, Lily looks like Return the Slab. That's what he looks like. I was scared.
Hiding under my covers.
Yeah. So then they are attacked. The 3 of them are attacked by the mother of many monsters.
Echidna.
Echidna and a chimera.
Chimera.
Oh.
I know.
Chimera.
I love Echidna. That's probably my favorite of all of the like Greek myths is the Echidna myth. Like I just love
Yeah.
Cool.
This was like very scary. This was scary and creepy. But I loved how the chimera.
There you
go. I got it. The CH messed me up.
It does.
I liked how the chimera looked in the show. But the sequence of events are a little different between the book and the show. The attack starts on a train in the show. In the book, it starts at the Gateway Arch. But eventually, Percy has to jump off the arch to save himself from the chimera attack and into the water.
And this is another one of those like instances where this is a tangible place. Tons of people have been. Yeah. So when you're reading this book or watching this series, you can like there's a chunk of the population that can be like, oh, I've been there. I've seen that. And it feels that much more real and exciting to them. I've been there like 1,000 times. That even like the Museum of Westward expansion underneath there that they were looking at when Grover was like, this is not a good place. I've been there. That's exactly what it is. And so it was really cool to be like, I've been there. I know that place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And then the author had the chance to correct his mistake and explain how Percy made it into the water.
Yes, because the water does not flow under the arch. Okay. So if you fall out of the arch, you're going to hit the pavement. Well, the concrete.
Yeah. So Poseidon saves him by helping his fall into the water by having the water like catch him.
So a water spout comes out and grabs him.
Yeah. Yeah, so when he falls, and he is visited by this one, I believe it's like kind of looks like his mom
Yeah, I think so.
under the water, but I don't know exactly what that is. It's not his mom.
I just
No.
assumed it was like a
A dryad or like
water
a water
sprite.
spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of looks like his mom, who's telling him just to breathe. And that's how he finds out he can breathe underwater.
And that is what his mom used to tell him all the time.
It's like, just breathe, just breathe. And which is a cliffhanger for episode 4 and our cliffhanger for our episode right now. So, quick thoughts, vibes so far. What are we feeling? How do we like the show up until this point?
Going so well with the book. Like
yes,
it's not perfect. It's not gonna be, but it lines up so nicely with the book. I think it's so well done. It's so well done. So excited.
Literally so good. Like I don't even know. Like I don't know how they are able to do this. Like you can just tell there's time taken here.
Yes.
There's a lot of effort here. The acting is so good. I loved it. I can just like, it literally brought the book to life. Like it brought it to life.
Knowing that the actor who plays Percy Jackson was actually filming those scenes underwater.
Yes.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, all the producers and everything, they say the actor who plays Percy Jackson, I can't think of his name right now.
Walker something. I don't remember his last name. Scoble something.
He is so hardworking and also read the series as a kid, loved it as a kid, read it so many times, was obsessed with it. A lot of like the actors have like similar feelings about the series. I believe Virginia Cole, who plays the mom, she had an emotional story about how whenever she auditioned for it, she was like talking to like a niece or nephew and was saying that, hey, I auditioned for this series to play in it, and they were literally so emotional about it because this series impacts kids, impacts them, and knowing that there's time taken to do such like a good adaptation and take the time to do such a good adaptation. I'm just imagining if you've grown up with the series, like this is so exciting for you. And and it brings new people, new fans to try it. So that's amazing.
Walker Scoble. I was right. Look at me.
Oh, there you go. All right.
So bad with names.
I know. We've reached the end of today's adventure. Before you go, remember that the quest doesn't end here. Parts 2 and 3 will have more content about the book, TV show, and movie adaptations. If you enjoyed the episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit us up on social media where we post bonus content and any schedule updates. Until then, stay sharp and avoid unclear prophecies. We will catch you in the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye.
Bye.